So today I'm going to talk to you about a teacher who reacted negatively to a personal evaluation. So first, the summary. A principal observed a teacher, Mrs. Stevens. During the observation, he noted and later discussed with Mrs. Stevens where there was room for improvement in terms of her classroom management and student involvement. Mrs. Stevens was upset about her evaluation and lack of supervision from her principal prior to the observation. The principal decided to visit Mrs. Stevens' classrooms again before deciding if she should be considered for rehire resulting in tenure or not. The second visit went the same. The principal set a second meeting to go over Mrs. Stevens' evaluation. Mrs. Stevens felt that she had not failed, but the supervision had. Before the principal could state his plans for the evaluation, which was to not rehire Mrs. Stevens, she made it clear she would take this to court if she was let go based on this evaluation. So some of the legal issues. Schools are required by law to observe, supervise, and evaluate their teachers. It is clear that there was one observation done with a post follow-up meeting and that the principal was not happy about the amount of respect that the students had for the teacher and also with the lack of student involvement in the classroom. He also stated that previous to this observation, he's walked by the classroom before and noticed that it has been loud, but it was unclear if he'd ever reached out to the teacher prior to this incident to give advice or feedback. And the principal has a right to not rehire a teacher based on evaluations. Ethical issues. The principal is responsible for his staff feeling supported. He should have known she was feeling the way she was feeling about lack of support and supervision prior to this incident. And Mrs. Stevens was unprofessional and could have vocalized her concerns sooner and more professionally. So to summarize in a sentence, Mrs. Stevens is disappointed with the supervision she has received and is threatening to take her evaluation by her principal to court because she doesn't believe it accurately reflects her teaching. So let's look at the facts. We know that Mrs. Stevens is the teacher. We know that there is a principal. Mrs. Stevens' students who lack involvement and respect towards Mrs. Stevens, and other teachers who the principal has been impressed with. So he did mention that he has a group of other teachers he's evaluating that he has no concerns with and is happy to keep on board. There are a lot of unknown facts in this case. One, the number of school administrators in the building, years of principal experience, the number of teachers observed, years of Mrs. Stevens' experience, the amount of time that Mrs. Stevens, the principal, and the other teachers have been at the school, the amount of times that Mrs. Stevens was observed or the other teachers, and the amount of times that Mrs. Stevens received supervision or feedback. We know that this is at a school. We know that it takes place in Mrs. Stevens' classroom, and we know that a meeting took place in the principal's office. We are unsure of the size of the school, the demographics of the school, rural or suburban, number of students, number of teachers. About the program, like I said, a lot of unknown. We know that it takes place in a school. We don't know if it's secondary or elementary. We don't know what subjects are being taught. If it is secondary, we don't know grade levels being taught by Mrs. Stevens or any of the other teachers, and we don't know about class sizes. We also don't know if it's private or public. We just know it's a school. Stakeholders, so a lawsuit against the school or district would be damaging to the community. The principal, Mrs. Stevens, students, district office, so human resources, superintendent, etc., all have stake in this outcome. District office has not been informed yet. So the only people that are aware of the issue as of this time is Mrs. Stevens and the principal. Assuming that there are other administrators in the building, they are uninformed as well. There's a lot of unknown information about the situation, such as comparison of other teacher evaluations, effort put in by principal previous to this observation, etc. So there are a couple options that can be done in this situation. One would be no action, which would be the principal setting forth the evaluation and saying that the teacher would not renew her contract. The consequences of this could be the teacher's contract isn't renewed and the district principal is potentially taken to court. Rehire, the consequence of this would be a teacher stays and there is a poor relationship between principal and teacher. Tenured teacher never improves. Also, the teacher would think that she gets whatever she wants from threatening a court case. The other options all include another observation and the principal researching how other schools do supervision in order to improve and prevent the situation from occurring again. I think that it's important that the principal recognizes that it is his responsibility to make sure that his staff is supported and they do feel that they are supported. And clearly he has done something to make a employee disgruntled, so he needs to make sure that he is improving his situation as well. So simply reevaluate. The consequences of this is there is no change or improvement. Meet and discuss with Mrs. Stevens her concerns prior to another observation. And again, we are still making sure that we're researching and talking to other principals on how they do their supervision and make their employees feel supported. So the consequences of this could be that Mrs. Stevens assumes her threat will get her what she wants. Stevens doesn't understand the importance of evaluations. Renew license with improvement plan. The consequence of this would be Mrs. Stevens' anger will not accept this agreement. And then inform school board district office and ask for their advice. The consequence of this could be that this results in a bigger issue and loss of control on the situation from the principal's part. So let's look at each one of these options. Option 1, no action, teacher is not rehired. Pros, get rid of a potential poor tenured teacher. And you don't have to reevaluate or talk to angry teacher again. You just kind of wash your hands of it. But the cons is you could potentially get sued and potentially get in professional trouble from district, office, board of education if in fact he has not been holding up his responsibility of supervision. Rehire, don't deal with the situation and just rehire Mrs. Stevens. You won't get sued, you avoid confrontation and avoid potential disciplinary issues from district office for the principal. But the cons are a tenured teacher never improves, poor relationship between principal and teacher doesn't think she needs to listen to principal. Evaluate options, so simply reevaluate. The pros to this would be maybe things go better this time, hopefully. But cons are everything goes the exact same and there is still no solution. We're just in the exact same situation, which is most likely what would happen. The fourth option, meet and discuss with Mrs. Stevens' concerns and then reevaluate. So Mrs. Stevens feels that her concerns have been heard. The principal knows how to support Mrs. Stevens. Relationship is repaired. Principal can improve his supervision tactics. Cons are Mrs. Stevens isn't taking responsibility of her actions and observation will go the same as before. 5, reevaluate and renew license with improvement plan. Mrs. Stevens is required to approve due to plan. Cons, Mrs. Stevens doesn't improve or doesn't agree to the improvement plan, and this may go against any tenure laws. Inform school board district office and then reevaluate. So the pros are principal can get legal and professional advice. The cons are potentially no conversation with Mrs. Stevens. Observation doesn't change. This is too little, too late. School board could want to take actions you are not comfortable with. Appear as though you can't handle a situation and lack of leadership as a principal. I think the best option would be a combination of 4 and 5. So have 2 separate meetings, one to discuss Mrs. Stevens' concerns and the second to discuss the goals of evaluations. After meeting, have another observation and make an improvement plan. Mrs. Stevens will have been informed about the importance of this evaluation. The principal will have been informed about what he needs to do to improve supervision in order to gain trust of all of his employees. The other administrators will be informed because they will be asked to attend the meeting. And district office will be informed about the improvement plan. So how exactly would you implement this decision? Schedule a meeting with Mrs. Stevens about her frustration. This meeting will purely be about Mrs. Stevens' wants, needs, or wanted but did not receive from her administration in terms of supervision and support. The other administrators will be present for support of the principal, but mainly so they can hear Mrs. Stevens' concerns as well. Ensure Mrs. Stevens that changes will be made, give specific examples on what that change will look like, and state that we hope Mrs. Stevens can make an effort to. Schedule a follow-up meeting about her observation in a couple of days. So that pre-observation meeting should look like a very honest conversation between Mrs. Stevens and the principal and the other administrators about the importance of this observation, why renewing it is not an easy decision, because at this point we want to make sure that Mrs. Stevens is going to be a team player. She's going to be tenured at our school, and that we need to be able to see that she can be a team player. And just say, we're all learning. I'm willing to take your advice and your feedback based on my lack of supervision and support towards you. I'm hoping you're willing to do the same. And remind her that we are here to support her, not to criticize her when we're doing those evaluations. And that this next observation, we're really going to need to see that she can be a team player. Then observe. Renew contract, assuming observation improved. No matter how glowingly this observation went and she took all the feedback in that one observation, there needs to be an improvement plan that must be followed for a year in order to receive a tenured contract. If observation did not improve, then don't renew contract. The principal has documentation and witness from other administrators that he put effort into improvement and that he took responsibility for his actions. So I don't think a lawsuit would be an issue at this point. That is the case study over a teacher who was unhappy about her evaluation. Thank you for watching.